Cool, blimey, mate. Hello, and welcome to my three viewers. Life in Newgate Street ain't half a tale. Well, I've just listened to all 8 of the AI voices for this saga, and I really enjoyed them. The series was written over 10 years ago, and I had forgotten how many details I had included about World War II. And I'm happy to say the series has sold well on Amazon. Of course, I'm very proud of the Miriam series, but after listening to the voices, I think there is a tie between that work and the Morrow family of Newgate Street. Certainly, it's a grittier and darker, and I did a great deal of research to make sure the details were authentic. If you have read them and you have any thoughts on that, then maybe you'll let me know down below. So, this 8-book series set in London begins with the onset of World War II and chronicles the interlocking lives of several families living in the Newgate Street and Old Bailey districts. It centres on the Morrow family, who operate a simple hardware store. The main characters are the father Jack, who has a disability, and Maud, his wife. They are coping with their daughter Maggie's scandalous pregnancy and their son William, who is not who they want him to be. Parallel to their story is the tragic life of Magdalene, an invalid woman trapped in a marriage with Donald Cox, a violent and corrupt policeman. Through a series of stories, the novel captures the suffocating atmosphere of 1939 London, marked by filthy fogs and the constant threat of war. Themes of betrayal, domestic abuse, and secret romances unfold against the backdrop of the phony war, illustrating how ordinary citizens braced themselves for global conflict. The novel depicts how a community struggled to maintain social propriety and business stability, while the looming shadow of the Nazi threat fundamentally altered their world. And this is only book 1. Come back in 2 days' time for the Morrow family of Newgate Street, 1940. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are settling in for something a little different and frankly something massive. We are just looking at a snapshot in time or a single event.
No, not at all.
We are effectively opening the first file of a sprawling 8-volume historical saga. We are looking at the Morrow family of Newgate Street, 1939.
And when you say massive, you are not exaggerating. I think it's really, really important to frame this correctly right from the start. What we are discussing today is Volume 1. This is the foundation.
The bedrock.
Exactly. We're meeting the Morrow family at the very beginning of a journey that is going to track them through every single year of the Second World War. This is where it all starts.
So this is the origin story. We're getting the baseline before the world completely falls apart.
That's the perfect way to put it. We are in London, January 1939, and the atmosphere, well, the sources describe it so perfectly. It's a city defined by a filthy fog that tasted mainly of coal and oil.
That is such a visceral description. It sets the mood immediately. I mean, you can almost feel that grit in your teeth. This isn't the bright, keep calm and carry on London we often see in movies.
Not even close. It's dark, it's gritty, and it smells. It's sensory overload. It's described as monochromatic, you know. The nights are pitch black, even before the blackout regulations fully kick in.
Right.
And looming over everything is this heavy psychological shadow of history and, of course, the encroaching threat of war. But our focus isn't on the politicians or the generals.
Well, we're zooming way in.
We are zooming right in on a domestic drama set right in the heart of this darkness.
We're heading to number 9, Newgate Street, just a stone's throw from the Old Bailey, the Central Criminal Court.
Which is such a crucial detail. In this story, geography is destiny. You cannot separate the Morrow family from where they live. They are, for all intents and purposes, ordinary shopkeepers.
But their location is anything but ordinary.
Exactly. They are living literally right next door to where London's most notorious criminals are tried and, historically, where they were executed. That shadow is long.
So let's lay it out. What's the mission for this deep dive?
Okay, I think there are 3 key things. First, we need to unpack the lives of these people, really get to know them. Second, we need to analyze how their domestic life, their arguments, their secrets, their dinners intersects with the brutal criminal underbelly of London.
Which in this story is personified by a very dangerous police constable. We'll get to him.
Oh, we will definitely get to him. And third, we need to understand the war of nerve.
The war of nerves, that's a phrase that comes up again and again in the source material. What does it really mean in this context?
It refers to that specific period of intense tension before the bombs actually started falling. It's the gas masks, the shelters being built, the psychological weight of knowing it's coming but not knowing when. It's the waiting game.
The dread of the unknown.
Precisely. But before we get to the war, let's look at the stage. Let's look at Newgate Street itself.
All right, let's walk through the door of number 9. It's a hardware store, isn't it?
Morrow's hardware store. It's a 4-story Victorian building, and inside it is described as an Aladdin's cave of utility. It's cluttered, it smells of paraffin and rope.
I can picture it, just stuff everywhere.
Everywhere. They sell tin baths, vermin traps, bird cages, acid, bleach. I mean, if you needed it to survive in 1939 London, Jack Morrow sold it.
And despite being in central London, right in the city, the sources mention it feels like a village. How does that work?
That is the fascinating contradiction of this neighborhood. The area between Holborn Viaduct and the Old Bailey functions like a declining hamlet. I mean, yes, it's the financial center of the empire.
But not on this specific street.
No. This street is populated by a sparse community of holdouts. Families who have been there for generations, living in the shadow of the law. They have their own ecosystem, their own rules.
And the shadow of the gallows. We can't ignore the history.
Literally. This area is soaked in the history of Newgate Prison, which stood there before the Old Bailey was built. This was the site of public executions for centuries.
Dancing the jig, as the locals called it.
Yeah, a horribly cheerful phrase for it, isn't it? But yes. The pavement outside the Morrows' home has seen thousands of people put to death. That history doesn't just go away. It seeps into the cobblestones.
And that brings us to Grandma Victoria. I have to say, reading her profile gave me genuine chills. She seems like a character carved out of that dark history.
Victoria Morrow, née Plumstead. She is the living link to that grim past. She was born in 1860. To give you context, that's the mid-Victorian era. The world she was born into is almost unrecognizable to the world of 1939.
And her father's profession. That's something else.
Jeremiah Plumstead. He skinned dogs and cats for a living.
Skinned dogs and cats.
Yeah. A hard man and a brutally hard time. But Victoria, she grew up watching hangings from her bedroom window. That was her childhood.
The sources mentioned the crowds shouting hats off. What was that about?
It's just so grim. It wasn't out of respect for the dead, not at all. The crowds would shout, "Hats off!" so the people standing at the back could get a better view of the prisoner dropping.
So it was pure spectacle.
Pure macabre theater. And Victoria grew up in that atmosphere. It didn't traumatize her in the modern sense. It desensitized her. In 1939, she's an elderly woman, but how does she spend her days?
She watches murder trials for entertainment.
It's her obsession. She's seen them all: Crippen, Seddon, Armstrong, the most famous murderers of the age. She sits there in the public gallery of the Old Bailey with her bag of peppermint creams, critiquing the legal proceedings like she's watching a play.
Like a theater critic.
Completely. Oh, the defense is weak today. Or that prosecutor has a nice voice. It's so macabre, but it tells us so much about the family. It tells you about their foundations.
It sets a tone of resilience, doesn't it? Or maybe just a very thick skin.
I think that's it. It shows that the Morrows are not your average soft suburban family. They are carved out of the city's rougher stone. They are comfortable with darkness. Which brings us to the patriarch, Jack Morrow.
Jack, the WWI veteran.
A veteran of the Battle of Verdun, one of the bloodiest in history. He has the Silver War Badge to prove he was honorably discharged due to wounds. He has a scar and a limp, but he is not the warm, storytelling grandfather figure you might imagine.
No, he's described as grumpy and controlling, but of a tyrant in his own home.
He is, but we have to look deeper. He's driven by a profound fear of poverty. His father died young. His sister died of TB because they were poor and couldn't afford a sanitarium.
So that's the trauma that drives him.
It's everything. Jack's entire life mission is simple. Make enough money to move away. He wants to escape the grime of Newgate Street and become respectable. He sees money as the only true security.
But early in 1939, right at the start of our story, life throws a wrench in the works.
A massive one. Jack suffers a stroke. It paralyzes his right side. Suddenly, the power dynamic in the house shifts tectonically.
The patriarch is laid low.
Completely. The man who controlled every penny, every decision, is now dependent on the wife he often takes for granted.
Okay, let's talk about Maud, because she seems like the glue holding this whole operation together even before Jack's stroke.
Maud is fascinating because she is living a double life, in a way. Outwardly, she's the disorganized wife running the cash register, dealing with Jack's temper. But underneath,
There's more going on.
so much more. She has a true personality that was awakened by childbirth and necessity. She has what an Irish nurse called the gift of healing.
She's an herbalist.
Unauthorized and unlicensed, of course, but yes. She practices herbal medicine for the poor who can't afford doctors. You have to remember there is no NHS yet. If you have a skin condition like impetigo or a chest infection, you can't just go to the GP if you broke.
So they go to Maud.
They go to Maud. She's brewing potions in the shed in the back garden. She's making poultices. She's a healer.
That gives her a secret power in the neighborhood, a kind of status that Jack doesn't even know about.
It does. It gives her an identity separate from Jack. But she also has another secret, one regarding her heart.
Richard Biggs.
The old flame, the one who got away. He was broken by family tragedy and spent time in mental institutions, which was a huge stigma back then, just a terrible, terrible thing to carry.
And now he's back in her orbit.
He's working as a gardener at St. Paul's Cathedral, just down the road.
Right.
And their paths cross again. In 1939, with Jack incapacitated and the world feeling like it's ending, Richard reappears. It reawakens this question of what if for Maud. It adds a layer of romantic longing to the domestic drudgery.
Then we have the kids, Maggie and William, the next generation.
Exactly. Maggie is 19. The sources describe her as very attractive, but she's stifled by the shop life. She finds it all so boring. And frankly, she is sexually adventurous. She is looking for excitement in a city that is buzzing with nervous energy.
Which leads her into dangerous territory, as we'll see. Extremely dangerous territory. And then there's William, who is 18. He's the spitting image of a young Jack. He has that same love of saving money. He has that Morrow mercenary streak.
He's the responsible one.
He is. He's dating Arabella, a sharp, street-smart girl who runs flower stalls. William is the steady one, but he is facing the draft. The war is coming for him, personally.
So we have this very complex domestic setup, a stroke victim, a secret healer, a rebellious daughter, a frugal son. But then we have the villain. And this isn't just a mean neighbor. We need to talk about PC Donald Cox.
Cox is a terrifying figure. The sources describe him as a giant of a man, 6'5", a police constable who rules his beat with fear, not law. He is the physical embodiment of the corruption and brutality in the city.
The sources describe him as a beast. But was he always like that?
No, and that's where the psychological profile gets so interesting.
Right. Because he has this really tragic backstory. He lost his wife, Magdalene, to a traffic accident. The accident paralyzed her and horrifically killed their unborn child. That trauma broke him. It turned him from what was apparently a decent man into a monster who just hates the world.
But he has a side hustle that is, well, it's straight out of a horror movie. We have to talk about the dentist.
It is truly grotesque. I mean, it's one of those details you read and you just have to put the source down for a minute. Cox pulls teeth for the locals.
With pliers.
With pliers. For 2 shillings a tooth, no anesthetic, no hygiene, just brute force. He inherited this skill from his father.
Why on earth would anyone agree to let a giant, angry policeman pull their teeth out with pliers?
Desperation and poverty. I can't stress this enough. Proper dental care was a luxury for the rich. If you had a rotting tooth causing you absolute agony and you had no money, you went to Cox.
Wow.
He inflicts pain for profit and calls it a service. It establishes his dominance over the very bodies of the people in his neighborhood. It's an incredible power move.
And he's involved with Maggie Morrow.
an illicit affair, which is just a terrible idea for her. Maggie is drawn to his physical presence, the sheer danger of it. He's a married man, a policeman, a brute. It's an act of rebellion against her controlling father.
But for Cox, it's not about love.
Not at all. For Cox, she's just a convenience. He uses her for sex and completely ignores her emotional needs. It's a power trip for him, too.
Meanwhile, his wife, Magdalene, is living this wretched life nearby.
In ground floor rooms at the Old Bailey, of all places, she's in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down. But she is not passive. This is one of the most compelling subplots in the entire source material. She fights back.
How does a paralyzed woman fight back against a giant, violent policeman?
Information warfare. It's brilliant. She has a pact with her friend Elizabeth Stride, a barmaid at the Viaduct Tavern. Elizabeth spies on Cox. She watches who he drinks with, who he talks to. She reports everything back to Magdalene.
And Magdalene uses that intel.
She writes anonymous hate letters to her own husband. She details his movements with chilling accuracy. I saw you with that woman. I know what you did at the pub.
That is psychological warfare on another level. She's gaslighting him.
She absolutely is. She torments him with his own sins. Cox receives these letters and he goes paranoid. He thinks the entire community is watching him, judging him. He has no idea it's his own wife sitting in the other room, systematically destroying his peace of mind.
So we have the domestic drama, the affair, the hate letters. The pressure is building. But then, things escalate. We move from misdemeanors to murder, the murder of Barker.
This is the turning point for Cox, the point of no return. Barker is a homeless man, described in the sources as a homosexual prostitute, living a desperate life on the fringes of society.
A very vulnerable person.
The most vulnerable. Cox discovers Barker and another man in the bushes near St. Sepulchre's church, and he snaps.
But why? Is it just rage?
It's fear. Cox is corrupt, he's taking bribes, he's a bully, he's terrified that if he arrests Barker, Barker might talk. Barker knows things about Cox's corruption. So in a moment of rage and panic, Cox beats Barker to death with his truncheon.
And the detail that stood out to me from the sources, he cleans the weapon on the victim's clothes.
It is chillingly cold. It's calculated in the moment, but panicked afterwards. He frames it in his own mind as an accident. I didn't mean to hit him that hard, but cleaning the weapon, that proves intent to cover it up.
That's not an accident.
No. That's a criminal covering his tracks. And there was a witness.
Elizabeth Stride, Magdalene's friend.
Elizabeth Stride. She sees it from the shadows. She is the eyes of the neighborhood. She's terrified to come forward initially, which allows Cox to remain free, but his paranoia just grows and grows. He starts drinking heavily at the Viaduct Tavern. The walls are closing in on him.
And all of this is happening while the world is gearing up for war. Yeah. We can't forget the backdrop. It's 1939,
Yeah.
the War of Nerves.
Right. We need to look at how the global situation impacts the Morrow household specifically. It's the transition from peace to readiness. Jack joins the civil defense initially.
For status, mostly.
Mostly for status, to feel like a man again after his stroke, but his paralysis ends that dream pretty quickly. Then come the gas masks.
Mr. Stevens delivering them.
The sources are so specific about the sensory details here. The smell of the rubber. It makes the fear of gas attacks visceral. You have to imagine sitting in your kitchen, smelling that chemical rubber and wondering if it's the only thing standing between you and a horrible death.
And the shelters.
They build an air raid shelter right in the street, which ends up blocking the tailor shop. It's a constant visual reminder. Every time they look out the window, they see concrete and sandbags. The war is physically arriving on their doorstep.
And Jack, ever the businessman.
Of course. He profits from the crisis. He starts selling blackout materials. He stocks up on heavy black cloth before anyone else does. He's securing his family's financial future, but he's also profiting from their fear. It's complex.
He's a survivor.
He is, above all else. And for William, the son, the war brings a dilemma. To enlist or not to enlist?
The pressure must have been immense.
Absolutely. Jack advises him, "You'd be better off signing up now," implying he could get a better posting, maybe avoid the front lines. But William looks at his father, scarred, limping, a broken man from the last war. And he has to wonder if that's the future he wants for himself.
So the tension is building globally and locally. And then Cox's life completely unravels. The domestic murder.
This is the climax of the thriller aspect of this story. Cox discovers the letters. He finds out it was Magdalene all along.
He finds her stash of them.
Yes. The betrayal, in his mind, is absolute. The source of his torment was the woman he felt burdened by, the woman he blamed for his misery. In a fit of pure rage, he strangles her.
He kills his wife.
In her wheelchair. And then he steals jewelry to fund his escape. He goes on the run.
But he doesn't get far. And this is a key insight from the text. He is trapped by his own geography. He can't leave London.
It's his territory. It's the only place he knows. He hides out with Mrs. Barker, the wife of the man he murdered.
Wait, let's pause on that. He hides with the wife of his first victim.
She doesn't know he killed her husband. She is destitute, desperate. He manipulates her poverty. He pays her for a room. He hides in a rat-infested attic in Ludgate Hill. It's a complete degradation. The giant policeman, the king of the beat, is now cowering in filth, listening to the rats.
But he gets desperate for money. He can't stay there forever. And this leads to the attack on the Morrows.
He breaks into the Morrow shop. This is the moment where any lingering sympathy you might have had for his tragic past just evaporates. He is desperate. He is violent. He is a cornered animal.
He confronts the family.
He punches William. William needs stitches. It's a serious assault. But then the dog,
Mr. Ruffles,
also known as Hitler, ironically, because of his bad temper, Cox picks up the family dog and throws it out of an upper story window.
killing it.
Instantly. It's a senseless, brutal act of violence that serves no purpose other than to terrorize them. And it galvanizes the police hunt. In the British psyche, you can kill a homeless man, you can kill your wife, but attacking a respectable family and killing their pet,
That crosses a line.
it brings the full force of the law down on him. It's the final nail in his coffin.
And he is caught.
A tip-off, likely involving Bert Jack's shady connection in the underworld. Cox is arrested, charged with Magdalen's murder and the theft. Not Barker's murder, interestingly. They don't have enough on him for that one.
And the trial takes place at the Old Bailey, the very building that has overshadowed their lives.
The irony is just palpable. Grandma Victoria, who loved trials, isn't there to see it. She passed away earlier in the year, another end to an era, but the rest of the family attends. Cox refuses to swear on the Bible.
Which surely didn't help his case.
Not at all. It showed a lack of remorse, a total lack of respect. The verdict is, of course, guilty. He is sentenced to death by hanging, and Elizabeth Stride shouts, "Good riddance!" in court. The ghost of the gallows returns to Newgate Street.
But the tragedy doesn't end there for the Morrows. Their own crises are reaching a boiling point. We have to talk about Maggie.
Maggie's secret. She
Yeah.
becomes pregnant again. There was a previous scare, an abortion. This time, the father is Anthony, a medical student with long hair who actually stood up to Cox in a pub fight earlier in the story. He's not a brute like Cox.
How does Maud react? She must be furious.
Oh, beyond furious. She says, "I'm not having a Morrow baby coming into this world known as a bastard." It's about reputation, about shame. But she's also practical. They seek a doctor for a solution.
Another illegal abortion.
It's a dark, secretive part of their lives, highlighting the limited choices women had. They find a doctor in Great Eastern Street. It's risky, it's illegal, but Maud pays for it to protect the family name.
And then, just when you think they've dealt with one crisis, the patriarch falls.
October 1939. Jack goes out drinking with Mr. Stevens to celebrate Cox's capture.
A victory lap.
Exactly. The monster is gone, the family is safe. But Maud and Jack have a blazing row before he leaves. The source says her last words to him are angry.
And it's heartbreaking.
It is. He dies of a heart attack or stroke in the pub, just like that. The central pillar of the family, the tyrant and the provider, is gone.
Leaving Maud with guilt.
A tremendous amount of guilt, yes, but also freedom. And that is the complicated truth of it. With Jack gone, the fear is gone. She takes over the shop. She is the new head of the household.
And Richard Biggs reappears.
He offers condolences, but he also hints at a future. Maud is a widow now. The possibility of a life she was denied years ago because of his snobbish mother is suddenly back on the table.
Which brings us to the end of the year, Christmas 1939.
A very bleak midwinter. Rationing is imminent: butter, sugar, bacon. The family holds a party for local shopkeepers to honor Jack, but the mood is heavy. The blackout makes the streets dangerous. Vehicle accidents spike because people literally can't see where they're going.
And New Year's Eve. How does the book end?
The episode ends with the family listening to the bells. And we should do a quick status check. Jack is dead. Grandma Victoria is dead. Cox is in the death cell awaiting execution.
William is waiting for call-up papers for the army.
Maggie is pregnant and facing a difficult choice regarding her future with Anthony. And Maud is standing at the helm of a ship that is sailing directly into a hurricane.
The final image is William, right?
William looking out at the snow-covered, blacked-out London. And he feels a strange sense of belonging. Despite the crime, the grime, the war, this is his home. but he's wondering where he will be in a few months.
It's a powerful cliffhanger and a perfect setup for the next volume.
And we have to remember, this is just book one. The phony war is ending. The Blitz is coming. The Morrows have survived the domestic tragedy of 1939, but the global tragedy of 1940 is about to hit their doorstep.
It really makes you think about how personal dramas don't stop just because a world war begins.
That's the core message, I think. Affairs, murders, petty crimes, they don't stop. They just get buried under the rubble.
Okay, that's a fantastic overview. Let's unpack this a bit more because there are so many details. I want to go back to P.C. Cox, the dentistry thing.
Oh, the dentist. It's one of those details that you read and you have to put the book down for a second.
I mean, seriously, it's not just the pain, it's the intimacy of it. The violation.
Exactly. You are letting this man, this brute, put his hands in your mouth. The mouth is such a vulnerable place. It creates this bizarre, terrifying power dynamic in the neighborhood. You don't just fear him because he can arrest you. You fear him because he's the guy who might be pulling your molar out next week with a pair of pliers from the hardware store. And
the fact that he inherited this skill from his father implies this multi-generational grimness to the area.
It does. It suggests that in Newgate Street, pain is a family trade. And notice how he frames it. He doesn't see himself as a torturer. In his own mind, he sees himself as a service provider. I'm helping these people who can't afford a real dentist. That creates a cognitive dissonance that allows him to justify almost anything he does.
Let's pivot to the women in this story again. Maud and Magdalene. There is such a real contrast there, but they're both trapped.
Two very different experiences of entrapment. Maud is trapped by social expectation and a controlling, difficult husband. But she finds empowerment through her secret healing. She's subverting the patriarchy of her own home. Jack dismisses her herbs as women's nonsense, but she's actually curing people. She has a separate economy of respect in the neighborhood.
Whereas Magdalene has lost all physical agency.
Physically, yes. She is confined to a wheelchair in a ground floor room. She is completely dependent on the man who resents her. But the hate letters, that is her reclaiming agency in the only way she can. She can't walk, she can't leave, but she can plant a bomb in his mind every time he opens the mail.
It's surprisingly modern in a way. It's psychological warfare.
It is. It effectively drives him insane. It contributes massively to his unraveling. He thinks he's being watched by the whole community, by strangers. He doesn't suspect the woman in the wheelchair. So when he finds out, that betrayal snaps his last tether to sanity. It's the realization that his victim was actually his persecutor.
And we have to talk about the location again, the Old Bailey. The sources even mention the Newgate wind.
The smell from the old prison cells, that's what they're referring to. The history of death is literally in the air. The sources say you can smell the damp, the rot of the old dungeons seeping up from beneath the new court.
And Grandma Victoria, she's almost like a gargoyle of the neighborhood sitting there watching it all.
She's a relic. She's living history. Her connection to the past watching hangings anchors the story in this cycle of violence. The area hasn't really changed. They used to hang people outside. Now they hang them inside. And the Morrows live right there, breathing it all in.
It's interesting that she dies before the war really hits. It feels symbolic.
I think it is, absolutely. The Victorian era, the old world, is finally dying out. Victoria dies, Jack dies. The old guard is gone. Now it's up to Maud, Maggie, and William to face the modern horror of total war. They are the new generation, and they are completely unprepared.
Speaking of Jack, his death is so sudden. But looking back at the narrative, were the signs there?
Oh, absolutely. The stroke was the warning shot. He's drinking, he's constantly stressed, he's angry all the time. But the timing right after his enemy, Cox, is caught. It's almost like he held on just long enough to see justice served, to see his territory secured, and then his body just gave out. The mission was complete.
And Maud's reaction. Maud is left with guilt, but also freedom. That is such a heavy sentence.
That's the complicated truth of long marriages, especially in that era. She loved him, sure, they built a life, they had children. But he was also a burden. He was controlling. He was often unkind. With him gone, she can breathe. She can run the shop her way. She doesn't have to hide the herbalism anymore. She can even consider a future with Richard Biggs.
Do you think she will? Go to Richard, based on this first book.
That's the big question for the future books, isn't it? Richard represents a gentler life. A life of flowers and gardens, not hardware and blackout curtains, but war changes everything. Can you really start a romance when the bombs are falling? It's a huge question mark.
And William, he's the quiet one in the family that he feels like the future.
He is. He's 18. He represents the generation that will actually have to fight this war. His dilemma to enlist or wait is the dilemma of every young man in 1939, and his relationship with Arabella grounds him.
She's a flower seller.
A sharp one. She runs multiple stalls. She's a businesswoman in her own right. She's not just a pretty face. They're a much more modern couple compared to Jack and Maud. They feel like partners in commerce and in life.
Let's talk about the crimes again. The murder of Barker. It's framed as an accident in Cox's mind.
That's typical of his narcissism. He beats a man to death because he's afraid of exposure, but he tells himself he didn't mean to. It was just a warning that went wrong. It's that cognitive dissonance again. I'm a policeman, I'm the good guy, so this must be a mistake.
But cleaning the truncheon on the victim's clothes? That's cold.
That is the act of a criminal. That's pure instinct. It shows that deep down he knows exactly what he is. And the sources mention he also stole the 10 shillings from Barker's pocket. It's not just murder, it's robbery. It shows he has no moral compass left whatsoever.
And the dog. I know we mentioned it, but it really is the kicker. It's the point of no return for the reader's sympathy.
It's the ultimate violation of the domestic sanctuary. Breaking into the home is bad enough, assaulting William is bad enough, but killing the family pet, it signifies that the war has come home. The violence isn't just over there or in the criminal underworld. It's in your living room. It's being thrown out of your window.
And it galvanizes the police hunt in a way that murdering a homeless man didn't.
Sadly, yes. Even the police have a code. You don't kill a dog. It makes Cox a pariah. Even among his own corrupt colleagues, it makes him un-British in a way that nothing else did.
You know, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the village feel of Newgate Street. I think we glossed over just how specific that community is. The sources mentioned so many little characters that flesh this out.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just the Morrows, it's a tapestry. You have Mrs. Henderson, the sitting tenant upstairs in their building.
A busybody.
The infernal, interfering busybody, as Jack calls her, yes. But she's also tragic. The source gives her a backstory where she lost her husband and 3 children in a house fire in 1910. She's living with ghosts.
That explains her attachment to the Morrows. They're her replacement family.
She's practically family. She's always there, popping in for aspirin, sharing gossip, but also providing comfort. When Jack dies, she's the one who comforts Maud. She's the Greek chorus of the building. She sees everything.
And then there's Bert, Jack's shady connection.
Bert is fascinating. No last name known. He's the guy who can get things.
Like the blackout material.
Exactly. When regular suppliers fail, Bert comes through. He represents the black market, the spiv culture that's about to explode during the war. Jack relies on him because Jack is, at heart, a bit of a schemer, too. He's not above bending the rules to make a profit.
Well, as we've established, his mission to make money is almost an obsession.
It's fear. He remembers the poverty of his childhood so vividly. He sees the war coming and sees profit, yes, but he also sees survival. If you have money, you have options. If you're poor in London during a war, you're vulnerable, you're trapped, you're just another casualty.
Let's talk about the war fever section again.
Yeah.
The gas masks. The sources describe a scene where Mr. Stevens delivers them. It feels like such a pivotal moment.
It's a chillingly domestic scene. These cardboard boxes sitting on the counter among the hardware, the smell of rubber, the instructions printed on the lid.
And the fear. Mr. Stevens says something like, if they use gas, you'll want one of these.
It brings the horror of WWI Jack's war right into the shop. Jack knows what gas does. He's seen it. Now he has to look at his children and hand them a mask. That must have been terrifying for him. It's the realization that he can't protect them from this new kind of war.
So as we close out this deep dive on the first book, what's the one thing you think we should leave our listeners with? The final thought to mull over.
I think it's the idea that history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about the accumulation of small, personal moments. It's about a family trying to sell hardware while a policeman goes mad next door. The great, sweeping tide of war is coming. But what this book shows us is that for most people, life is lived in the details.
And those details are what make this saga feel so real. It's not about generals in a map room. It's about Maud trying to decide what to do about her daughter. Yeah. And William wondering if he'll live to see the next year.
Exactly. We've met them now. We've seen their flaws, their secrets, their strengths. And the provocative thought is this. How will these ordinary people, with all their ordinary baggage, react when the bombs actually start to fall? When the war is no longer a newspaper headline, but the house next door on fire?
I, for one, am hooked. I want to know what happens to Maggie's baby. I want to know if William survives the war.
And that is the beauty of this saga. We have 7 more books to find out. The story is just beginning.
Well, thank you so much for this. It's been incredible. And thank you to our listeners. Remember, this is just the beginning. The Morrows have a long war ahead of them. Stay tuned. Until next time, keep diving deep.